Hi, everybody. Ready to start? Hi, Benjamin. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is going to be our ninth shir that we're doing together as a group. We started during COVID. We started as a small thing with me and Coach Menachem in our local community. And Baruch Hashem, we've had a lot of interesting weekends over here. And it's been very helpful to everybody. It's been a tremendous chizuk. And we're really appreciative for everybody that comes on to help us. The reason why we got to this session tonight about financials is because one of the pressing issues happening right now throughout COVID, but obviously as time goes on, it's getting more relevant, is the issue of finances. So I look for the best guy I can get, and Saul, I guess you win. So that's why you're on tonight. With over 40 years experience, I figured you probably know a little bit more than me. We made a nice, interesting board tonight. We have some retail owners. Motivational Sira owns a store local here in Lakewood. We have Benjamin Heineman, who is, I'm going to call him the global Lakewood guy because he has a big, first he's been in Lakewood from, I don't know, maybe before Lakewood existed. And he has a big printing company and he's involved with every retail business because, he's always doing advertising. Any retail business really pretty much advertises in the BP. So he probably has a very good pulse and more of a general of what's going on in Lakewood. And that's how we formed this board. And later on is going to be Mr. Charlie Harary will be gracing us with his presence to get some different chizuk. So let's get started. First, I want to welcome everybody to the program. I want to thank our corporate sponsor this week, Mr. Saul Friedman, for sponsoring the program. And Saul Friedman, thank you for sponsoring Saul Friedman. We really appreciate it. And I asked him tonight, before we started this program, why he decided to come on. And he said if he could help one yid and give him chizuk and give him some financial advice, it's worth every dollar and it's worth his time. So that's what he's here for tonight. He's here tonight to give us his understanding, his chizuk, his knowledge. And everybody's coming from a different point of view. It's very interactive. We want questions. We want people to be involved. It's not a share. It's not a speech. We're not interested in that. We want people to turn on the videos. All right, let's go, everybody. Turn on your videos. Don't be scared. That's it. Turn them on. Oh, Mark, how are you? And make it very interactive and make it fun. And let's ask really hard questions and let's be honest. So first I want to thank the corporate sponsor, Saul Friedman, for coming on. I'd like to give a special thank you to our advertising sponsors, Mrs. Chaya Kaufman from the Yeshiva World of Matzav, LNN, the Lakewood News Network, Lakewood's most viewed status. You can sign up by sending a WhatsApp message to 732-903-5017. I'd like to thank Reb Yankel Wanger from the Lakewood Shopper for always promoting us. J Blast. I'd like to thank Mrs. Mika Sofer from COL Live. And I want to give a special thanks for Chazak, from children's to teens, singles and couples, millennials, baby boomers, for all our cherished seniors. Chazak offers programming for all. We're going to start the program with opening remarks from our host, Coach Menachem. Take it away.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem. First, I would like to thank the whole team, the Let's Get Real team that's working around the clock to make this all a major success, like you can see. And to all of you that participate and send your feedback, which I love reading the feedback. Last week, we had on the show, we had about the effect that technology has on us humans. The information was packed. We almost went to 2 hours, and it was really amazing. The positive feedback just doesn't stop. And for those who want to watch the replay, you can go to menachembernfeld.com to get the replay. Today's topic, transition to greatness, is stepping back before moving forward towards financial and spiritual success. During the past few months, we all have became aware of challenges, and not everyone, Hashem, we're having tonight. And now we are seeing some light, hopefully, light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully we're going to get out of this tunnel. But before moving forward, we need to step back and evaluate. Where was I before this? Where am I now? How did this affect me? And how to move forward. What can I do? Some ideas which we'll hear soon. And what can I do different so that I learn from experience. You see, money is very powerful. When we were kids, and some people still say it, they say, when I win the lottery, I'll give, I'll do, I'll build. Hashem, I'm telling you, just when I win the lottery. And then when we slowly have success, there's no one home. It's hard to get to him. Too busy. He might say, not now, I work too hard, I worked hard for it. I need to support my kids, all different ideas. So we might hear some ideas tonight that might be hard to accept. And for many people that is painful, what we're going through financially, we don't really want to hear it. Just tell me everything will be fine, I'll be good, that's all I want to hear. But the truth is that this is the time to talk about it. This is the time to plant some seeds so that when we get back in Mitzvah Hashem, when we get back on our feet, we do things a little different and we're a little bit more conscious about the money that we make. And we have to understand that everything that's going on, whether it's financial, in whichever area your challenge is, this is all an assignment, it's a test. And bitachon and ishtadlus, they go together. Whether it's financial or in the other areas, we have to have bitachon, but we have to do ishtadlus. And we have to make the kelim for Hashem to send us the hashpah. Tonight, we'll be discussing mainly about the ishtadlus. And the ishtadlus is different for everyone. Everyone is different. Everyone is on a different level of ishtadlus. Many people, when they're fine, when they're feeling healthy, they're not really aware of the bracha and Shemona Esrei of Baruch of Rifa'enu. But if chas v'shalom they become sick and they're in a hospital and doctors give up, they somehow figure out there's this bracha and they concentrate on Rifa'enu. The same thing is the bracha of Baruch Aleinu. When things go good, Shemona Esrei takes a little bit faster. But we have to become aware of the ishtadlus, the main ishtadlus of tefillah, and we have it in our Shemona Esrei every day. So I'm happy that tonight in Mitzvah Hashem we'll hear from Mr. Friedman, who has a bird's eye view of what's going on and the experience that he has from many, many years, from all different types of experiences. And in Mitzvah Hashem we'll hear from Charlie Harary, his perspective. And I would like to thank Ben Heineman and Mordechai Kassirer for being here tonight with us and sharing a little bit and helping so that we can get some insights, ideas, how to move forward.
Thank you, Coach Menachem. Thank you for the beautiful opening. We're going to start first with a good friend of mine, Mordechai Kassirer, who's a retail owner here in Lakewood. And just in general, not talking about Mordechai, just in general, obviously anybody in the retail business now knows it's not exactly the best season the last few months. Mordechai sells, very upscale china and gifts, especially during Yom Tov time. It's been a definitely challenging thing. And I want to hear from him a perspective of what he thinks is going on and some divrei chizuk. Mordechai, please take it away.
Evening. Thank you, Coach Menachem, for your opening remarks. Thank you, Usher, for hosting. And of course, thank you, Mr. Friedman, for coming on to be mechazik us and give us some direction. Thank you, Mr. Heineman. So my wife and I have a store called Set Your Table, and we sell upscale china, dinnerware, and gifts. Our busiest times of the year are the weeks preceding Purim through Pesach. We do lots of Purim gifts, lots of corporate gifting, Mishloach Manos, and then we move straight into the Pesach season where people need flatware, dinnerware, and anything that people not like to have on a nice Seder table. As we get closer to Pesach, many people go away for Yom Tov, and they want to buy a nice gift for the people that are hosting them for Yom Tov. So that's another big part of our business. Baruch Hashem, we had a very good Purim season, and then the coronavirus hit. But I just want to give you a little bit background, a bit about my company, and you can know where we came from and exactly where we were when we were hit with the coronavirus. And Baruch Hashem, if I can say how we made it through with Hashem's help. My wife started the business about 13 years ago, in our dining room. We moved to our basement, and a short while later, we were on the street in Chateau Plaza in Lakewood. We had a nice small shop for about close to 10 years. Last summer, we moved into a 3,000 square foot showroom in the New Avenue shops in Lakewood. Obviously a nice, beautiful, upscale shopping experience. And we exemplified, if I can say, the retail experience, the brick and mortar retail experience, the personal service that you get in a brick and mortar store, the relationship you get with the merchants. There's hardly ever a time that you'll come into the store where either myself or my wife aren't there. Our employees are known and friendly to the people. So it's a real brick and mortar experience. And we, Baruch Hashem, built up a nice client base over the years. And our business moved to a spot where we were able to invest and move forward into this new showroom. We were obviously looking forward to the first Purim and Pesach seasons in the new shop. When I went into retail about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago, my father-in-law told me a word from Rav Victor Miller. Rav Victor Miller Zatzal said, if you want to know where to get emunah and bitachon, then you have to go to a retailer. Retailers have that experience on a daily basis. You have to deal with customers actually walking into your shop, coming in, being happy with the merchandise you're selling them, and then moving on. Unlike other businesses where there's a client base in a retail setting, it's so much more where you see the actual emunah bitachon. You can have a quiet day in the winter, and then a good customer walks in towards the end of the day, and that changes the entire day. And retailers feel that. So we went into to the coronavirus knowing that Hashem is running the world, and He had the plan from Rosh Hashanah that this should be the season. Just to give some practicals, as soon as the coronavirus hit, we realized that we're not able to sell the way we sold in the past. Our customers were calling, I need this for Yantav, I need that for Yantav. Whereas in the past we were selling, if I could say extras, I want an extra thing. All of a sudden we had people that needed flatware for Yantav. They never made Pesach. They don't have dishes. They don't have glasses. And my wife and I realized we have to pivot and start offering our product in a different way. We didn't have the ability to open a website at that time, which is a discussion for a different time. But we expanded our digital selling very quickly. We set up a business WhatsApp, business texting. Besides the text and the WhatsApp that I was getting, my personal cell phone number, my wife's number was getting lots of text, WhatsApps. We had to keep track because you have some employees that have text and WhatsApp, and you have people DMing you on Instagram, and you have to make sure that you're getting all those texts. And the nature of a text, like when we all send a text or a WhatsApp, we expect a response rightfully so very quickly, and our customers want to know, is it taken care of? But we were able to send customers pictures, said, do you like this, do you like that, show me something else, and quick delivery service. We have the ability to offer very quick delivery, and we were freer with our delivery charges. So instead of the regular $10 delivery, sometimes we waived that fee for some customers depending on the purchase or what was going on, because we knew the customers can't get out and they just want to get the item. So if I could say, we Baruch Hashem survived the Pesach season. After Pesach, when Corona started receding, if I can say, I noticed that people are, Baruch Hashem, eager to move on with their normal lives. And they want to shop. And as it's getting, people are calling, are you opening? Are you opening? Is the store open? Can you help us? Can you help us over the phone? And I don't know if people's financial situations has settled or gotten better, but I see that people do have a desire to continue that retail experience. And I could say, Baruch Hashem, the weeks preceding Shavuos, people wanted those gifts. They wanted their floral arrangements. They wanted new vases. Just to get back into that retail setting was encouraging for us, but we were happy to be able to provide that service to our customers over the phone with texting, curbside pickup, and the likes. We had opportunities. Some callers called if they can have a personal appointment, which we had set up, obviously with social distancing. But we had a caller in the store last week, and usually when I ask the caller, like, so when do you need the dishes? They're like, oh, we're not going to be home for the first few weeks. So the mother's like, we might serve a wedding on this china. We don't know yet. So please make sure that we have it, and we'll enjoy it by the wedding, if not by the Shabbos Sheva Brachos. It's certainly different. It's certainly new. We're treading new orders, but I do think that as we open up, people have a tremendous desire to get back to the normal in a hopefully in a more healthy way, but to continue supporting the economy. And for the local retailers, that should be a big chizuk for the moms and pop out there, running their own retail shops. Thank you.
Beautiful, Menachem. That was really, really nice. Next, we have up Mr. Yamin Heineman, one of Lakewood's top businessmen, I would say. And I feel like, again, the reason why he came on the program and offered is I feel he has a real pulse on Lakewood, having a publication in Lakewood and all the retailers pretty much advertising with him. He really knows what's going on. Rabbi Yamin, please talk.
Good evening. The pressure is on.
Join the club.
Well, thank you for having me on. Noshi, as I said before, watching you every week, you're having too much fun, way too much fun. Yeah, and thank you, Coach Menachem. I admire your sage advice, your calmness, and your amazing smile. Keep it up. You're an inspiration for us all. As was said, people who are following this in the past, they've featured therapists. I'm definitely not one and can't help you in that area. This week they decided they want to go onto the business forum and talk more about business, but then they told me that I have to gear my speech towards spirituality. Now, I am definitely not qualified to give any spiritual lectures. I'm a simple businessman trying to do my best. But honestly, the exercise was an interesting one, and I'm definitely happy to share some of what I have come across with you. Definitely have to start by recognizing the devastation and the loss, so many dear ones, so many great people, as well as the loss of business, and unfortunately, even some businesses that are lost forever. As a business owner, I can tell you firsthand that it was a tremendous loss. Immediately when it hit, I had to furlough most of my staff. My invitation department is the first one that came to a screeching halt. I have 9 employees in that department that went from 10,000 to 0 in a matter of minutes. I know how it feels. It's rough. And then came Pesach season. And some of us wait for it. We were closed for a week and a half to Pesach. We have to make up money beforehand and afterwards. We all lost tremendously. It's been very, very difficult. But I think as Yidden, we have to know, and we do know, that this is all from Hashem. Hashem's talking to us, and we have to understand what he's saying. But there's one thing for sure. He is still our Avinu Shevashamayim. He's our merciful Father, and he's watching over us. We have to believe, and we have to know. At the end of the day, there's not one of us that will make 1 penny less than what was written in for us on Rosh Hashanah for this year. Hashem is watching over us. He will not forsake us. For some, he will force us out of a bad or losing business for something better. For others, it will be rebuilding stronger and better businesses. But it's all going to be for our good. If there's one blatant message that I've learned, come to realize, that's very clear to me, anybody who's running a business, whoever thought, that's my might or anything that I've done that brought me anything that I have, it's all out the window right now. Tremendous lesson. All our businesses came to a screeching halt. Things that we never dreamed can ever happen. The travel, hotels, Eretz Yisrael, whatever it may be, all done. And despite the greatest CEOs or amazing managers, it's only Hashem who runs everything. And it's really a good thing, because if we're in charge, it would not be so good. During this time, I've learned a few things. Number one is to really appreciate every customer. When a customer comes in, we always appreciated our customers. But how much did we appreciate them, or how much do we express it? Now when someone comes in and gives me an order, I say, thank you very much. I really mean it. We need every bit of business that's out there, and everything really counts. We went from nothing and we're rebuilding, Baruch Hashem. But we really have to be so grateful and thankful to every bit of business and not take any bit for granted, Chas v'shalom. And of course, to thank Hashem every day. The local paper, I think it's the Lakewood Shopper, who has a campaign of shop local. I think that's so important. If we keep our money locally, if I give my money to the grocery store, who pays his schar limud to the schools, who pay the rabbeim, who can go give their money to the mechanic, who can keep this money rolling and back to the mechanics and back to the grocery stores. Money that's kept in our community stays in our community, and it's so important, to, especially during this time, to be mechazik and to keep that money there so that we can keep having it, we can get tzedakah and so on and so forth. Every dollar that goes to Walmart or Target is gone from this community for who knows, forever. They're never giving any money back to us. So that's the really important thing that I feel. Number two, I do feel that this time that Hashem gave us is really a gift and an opportunity. I've been in business, Baruch Hashem, for 30 years. The wheels of business are turning and churning, and we're trying to keep up with everybody and everybody. You never have that real chance to like just stop and try to figure out where to take your business, look at your business again. What have I been doing for 30 years that perhaps should change because times have changed or are not so good anymore? When all business came to a screeching halt, I'll be able to stop and concentrate and look at my business and say, okay, let's try to change this. Let's fix that. Let's do something else. It's time to fix, update, restructure. I was very happy to see some companies already started rebranding. Some were remodeling, coming up with a new business plan. This is what to do at this time. Hashem's giving us the time now to re-energize and to come out even better, which is really something that that we have to always think about in the positive way. Be energized and positive. Don't think, how will my business survive this pandemic? But think, how much stronger will my business be when we get out of this? And we have to use that time and this gift very wisely to rebuild, educate, and refocus what we have. There's no better time now than to get some more education, to learn, to teach. Who doesn't need a good brush up in learning Excel or Word, or even understanding, learning more about marketing? I'm not asking you to spend the money right now, but understand the difference between branding and marketing. There are so many courses out there. In fact, Ocean County College has courses now that are all done through the computer, and you don't even need the minimum. Just sign up. Most of them are almost nothing. It's not nothing. They have many different links to many different things. Definitely something, an opportunity for us to get involved in and to work on. Great opportunity. Don't miss out on it. I feel confident, even though Ushi perhaps thought differently, but I feel the economy was strong. We had a pandemic, had nothing to do with the economy, and the economy will come back. And even Ramoska said it a few minutes ago, the people are buying, people are out there. The economy is strong and will continue to be strong. And Emet Hashem, we're going to be even stronger than ever before. We're going to bounce back, and we're going to be there in our full strength and our full glory, Emet Hashem. We see the Yad and everything, Yad Hashem and everything all the time. It's a miracle that the printing industry somehow became essential. I'm not even sure why, but it was my miracle. And Baruch Hashem, Hashem was there for me. I was really upset when I didn't get the PPP loan on the first round, and it turned out to be the best thing for me. To have the PPP loan when it first came out, when there was nothing going on, would have been a disaster. Over Pesach, I didn't need the PPP loan. It was afterwards that I got it. Look out for the good things. Hashem is there. Hashem is watching us. And any success we have to know is only from Hashem. And we have to just daven that this will pass very quickly, and that we'll learn all the lessons, benefits from the opportunities, and appreciate and thank Hashem all the time. And then we'll surely have much hatzlacha, Mitzvah Hashem. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Yaman. That was mind-blowing. Beautiful. Harav ben Yaman. Now I know that you came with spirituality. Now I know. Okay, Mr. Saul Friedman, how are you?
I've been listening.
You're listening?
Very inspiring words.
There was. I want to, before I introduce, again, people that just joined now, we have 412 people. I want to say, Saul Friedman, I reached out to him to come to be Mechazed Olam. He's a person that has over 40 years experience. He's lived through recession, 2009, 2008, 9/11, Corona, Kishmona. He's been through it. He's seen it. He's an accountant for big businesses, but most of his accounts are smaller accounts. I think he has a broader view, not just of Corona, just of the global picture. And that's why I think he was essential to come onto this program. So Saul, take it away.
Good evening, everybody. It's a chus for me to talk to everybody who's on this conference. I just like to differ with Rabbi Yaman on one thing. He used a word which I didn't like. He said there are people that were wiped out. I don't like that word. Let me explain to you how I categorize this. And I have some of my children are on here. They'll probably be bored because they heard me say this 100 times. So I'm not making this up now. I consider this a dip. I don't say it's a recession. I don't say it's a depression. I don't use wipeout. It's a dip. In life, in your life cycle in business, and I'm talking about business, there are dips. It's like taking a dip in the pool. You go down and then you come right up. It's just a natural thing. And this is what happened here. Just to give you an example of why I don't even consider this a very, very large dip. We've had worse times in the past 40, 50 years that I've lived through in the business world. Who of you remember standing in line for an hour and a half by the gas station to get 1 gallon of gas? And that happened in 1973. I don't believe you, Usher. Mark, maybe. Or I like to give this riddle to people. It's very well known that President Trump owns a building called 40 Wall Street. It's about 1 million square feet of office space. He bought it, I think, in the late 80s, very early 90s, when we had the RTC, which is another parsha. Things were very bad. It's 1 million square feet, and I always like to ask, what do you think he paid for that building? Does anybody care to give a guess of what you think he paid for that building in the late 80s? Well, the actual number is, at closing, he didn't pay a penny. He got a reserve, a bank reserve of $135 million was in the account, in that LLC account. So he got $135 million for taking over that building. That's how bad things were then. So things really can get bad in such a way where it doesn't turn back right away. It takes a long, long time for it to turn. Another example. At that time, the prime interest rate was 22.5%. 22.5%. So if a bank was lending you at 2 over prime, they were almost touching usury. Because if you hit 25%, then the whole contract is void, because it's called usury. So the banks used to have a provision in there saying that in case our rate, together with the finance charges or anything else, hits over 25%, we're reducing it automatically, you're getting a refund. That's how bad things were then. Even earlier speaking, I always tell people, my father, who was not here already 26 years, he used to buy my mother a present at their anniversary, which came out around Hanukkah time. But we were very, very poor living in the Lower East Side. So how did he have money to do that? Well, he thought ahead. And on top of the refrigerator or the icebox, I don't remember which it was, he had a little cup, not a plastic cup because there was no plastic then. He had a cup, and every time he had a couple of pennies in his pocket, like loose change, he threw it into the cup. At the end, Hanukkah time, he emptied out. I remember this every year. He emptied out, and if he had in there $4, $5, $3.50, whatever he had, he went with that to a jewelry store or whatever and bought my mother a gift. So he was planning ahead. So the purpose of my speaking today is to give you some helpful hints that in case something like this happens, you are not wiped out. A Yid is not supposed to be put in a position that if the unthinkable or the unpredictable happens, he gets wiped out. Because getting wiped out is a terrible thing, not only for himself, for his wife, his children, his emunah, his learning, everything gets affected by being wiped out. So you have to plan ahead that in case this happens again. Now you're going to say, well, what can happen? What can really happen again? Who thought what would happen in February, in March? Who thought in February what would happen in March and in April? And who knows what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day with all the riots going on? And we don't know what's going to happen. You have to be in a position, and I'm begging you all, you have to be in a position that if there is another dip, that you should be ready for it and not get wiped out. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to lose money. You will lose money because that's what happens. But a Yid cannot get wiped out. You have to plan ahead. So what I want to do is, before we do the questions and answers, I just want to run through a couple of things that I always tell everybody. I tell it to my children. I tell it to myself. This is the way I did things over the years. And when these dips happen, and trust me, I had 2 or 3 dips in my career, in my business career, even though I consider myself a smart accountant and know business, but you still fall into traps sometimes and you lose a substantial amount of money. But there was never a situation. My wife used to ask me when things were really bad in certain times, if I lose all this money that I have invested in a certain investment, will we still have what to eat? In other words, it was her way of saying, are we going to get wiped out? And I always told her, Baruch Hashem, I'm planning in such a way that begashmius, I'm not talking beruchnius, you do mitzvahs so you don't get wiped out. Hashem looks after you. For that, go to a Rebbe, go to a Rav, or go to a Mashpia, and he's going to give you all the brachas. You come to me, I tell it to you straight, the way it should be. So let's start. It's not in any order. It's not in any order. I just jotted down some things to give you some little pieces of advice or little pieces of procedure of how you should behave. So if this happens again, you should not get, you should be able to survive the dip. I believe that every younger man who's working should strive, before he starts making all these fancy bar mitzvahs and all these fancy investments and everything else, I think that we must have in a bank account and secure, in a money market or mutual funds or whatever, 4 years of savings. It should be there. 4 years of your need. For instance, if you need at a minimum to live from $100,000 a year, you should strive that in a certain amount of time, you should put away $400,000. That cannot be used for investments. It cannot be used for weddings. It's made for emergency time. So if God forbid something happens, a financial catastrophe, a medical catastrophe, a mental catastrophe, other problems, and you have to stop working or you go out of business, at least you have savings that you can survive for 4 years. That's my opinion. This is what I tell everybody. One of the things that help along this is to try in your business, or if you're an employee somewhere, try to get a pension plan or a 401k. That forces you to save money. That could be used towards that 4-year savings plan that you should have. Because in the worst case, if you have to pull out the money, there are ways you can pull out the money that there is no special penalty in certain cases. and even if you have to pay the penalty, but at least you're not going to be wiped out. So you should try to have a pension plan or a 401k. You don't put away a lot of money, but that should be your goal. You should sit down once a year with yourself, and I prefer if you do it with your wife. Sit down and you make yourself a budget. What do I mean by budget? You don't have to be so fancy and figure out every dollar what you're going to spend. But you say, you know, we're going to live now. We have, Baruch Hashem, X amount of children. We have tuition. We know what we spend for groceries. We know what we spend for camps and everything else and clothing. And the reason I say to do this together with your wife is because a lot of young Galite that I see don't tell their wife much about what's going on in their business. First, that's wrong. She should know. And second of all, it's like an added control both ways. Because if your wife wants to buy a dress for $1,000 and you say you can't afford it, she probably thinks you don't want her to get the dress. So you say you can't afford it. Of course you can afford it. If you can go to a restaurant and have a meal for people and spend $700, why can't you get a dress? But if she knows your finances and she's going to see what you can afford and what you can't afford, she's going to believe you. And it's going to be like a double check. It's going to be a check in case that issue of a dress comes up, and it's going to be a check also on you in case you want to spend $700 in reserve cut for two people. So you should sit down and make yourself a budget that you should know be'erach what you're going to spend this year. And if you're really too much ahead of what you said, you have to check. You have to sit down and say, hey, I got to stop. I can't do this. One of the biggest problems in Galite have, and the old timers usually don't have that, is credit cards. Today it's easy. You charge everything. People have, I see sometimes people come in and they have like 50 credit cards. That is terrible, horrible to have. You should only charge on credit cards what you know you're going to pay back when you get the bill. Pay it back in full. If, for instance, you're buying something, furniture of a large amount of a big purchase, and you want to do that by credit card, okay, that's an exception. But to live without a cheshbon just on credit cards, okay? And most people say, you know why I buy it on credit cards? I want points. Okay, so what are points? Points are used to fly somewhere. Now, how many times are you going to fly with your points? Everything is the points, the points, the points. First of all, I don't even have time to check on points and what I can do with it. You have to be a lady guy, in my opinion, that you're going to deal in that and trying to figure out which is a better point and which is a better card. I find the best way to do it, I have a Capital One card, pays you 2% on what you purchase. I only use that card. I pay it back every month. I know I get 2%. Most cards you don't get, you get 1.6, 1.5. Here you get 2%. You get the money. You don't have to worry about points. You don't need 100 credit cards and borrowing from here and there. Because what you do is you only become a Baal Chayv. You're spending more than you have, and that's not good for you. Another thing to do, again, against the wipeout, what I call the wipeout, or what Rabbi Newman called the wipeout, I call the dip. When my children were born, and my Eineklich, and now Baruch Hashem for my ear Eineklich, I opened an account for them. You can start an account with $500, even with $200. You open an account. And every time you want to, comes a Purim, comes a Hanukkah, you want to give the kids something, instead of giving it and spending it on toys, you give it to them into their account. And trust me, it grows. I started with my Eineklich. Today, Baruch Hashem, they have a significant amount of money, but I only use it for that. They have a significant amount of money to put a down payment for a house. And they know that that's what it is. I want them to have a house. My father, Rabbi Shalom, also wanted us to have houses, and that's what the money is used for. So start very small. Even if you put in $10 a month for each child, you're saving, you're doing something in order that they should also learn that it's good to have an account with a cheshbon. Now, one of the things that I like to do is even though I consider myself sophisticated and I know all these things, but you cannot solve your own problems. Each of you, if you come across a problem that you don't know, I'm talking a financial problem. It goes with any problem. Find a disinterested third party to get his opinion. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a business associate, somebody who's really looking out for your benefit, who's disinterested. You know, sometimes asking a son what to do, when you'll get older, you'll have children that are older and you can ask their advice. They might have some nagia as to what's going on. You have a disinterested third party that you can ask to steer you in the right direction in case some of these things don't work out. What I want to sum up, is as follows. Let me give you a statistic that I have noticed in the past 46 years that I've been having, that I have my firm, Saul Friedman and Company. I can categorically tell you, without exception, that I have never yet seen a successful business without a great set of books. That does not mean that if you have a great set of books that you're going to be successful. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, I have never encountered from our hundreds of clients that we have, anybody who's really successful who doesn't have a great set of books. Now, I'm not here advocating to have a great set of books, but what is the reason behind this? Because in order to have a great set of books, you have to be Masudar. You have to be an organized person. If you have a bank account and then you have another bank account and you start taking from one bank account to the other bank account and you borrow from this credit card and you go to your friend and you tell him, can I use your credit card? You can't have a good set of books. To have a good set of books, you really have to be an organized person and organize financial practices in order for that to happen. Once you have that and you're living with a cheshbon, both from a point of view of your own personal budget, and the same thing is with the budget of your business, that you know what you're doing, and everything is going with a cheshbon, it's going to be far easier to be successful. So even with businesses, a lot of the things that I said before about businesses, about personal, also is applicable to businesses. For instance, if you conduct your business in an organized way, and this alone could be a whole, we can talk about it for a week, and you're showing profits and you're showing nice financials and you're dealing with a bank and you have a good relationship with a bank and you have a line of credit and you have bank offices that you can speak to, comes a time like this, most bankers are going to understand and they're going to help you. In our firm myself, when I saw COVID coming and I wanted to pay all my people every week, I didn't, even though they didn't come into work, I still believed that I should pay them. I went to my bank and I took out a loan that covers 3 weeks of payroll before I had the PPP. Somebody mentioned you didn't get it the first time. We also didn't get it the first time because a shoemaker goes with torn shoes, you know, so that's the way it was. I was also afraid I'm not going to get it. But I was ready for it because I had a bank to work with, and they said, and not only that, I have mortgage payments. I called them, what could you do for me? The next 90 days, there's no mortgage payments. We had a line of credit payments. If you behave with a bank and you're doing the right things, you have somebody to work with, so at least the business should not go down the drain. And let's put it this way, because again, this is another topic. We've done a lot of research in the PPP project, and we're in the middle of doing research in the forgiveness. By the way, just a helpful hint, anybody that tells you anything today about the forgiveness program, don't even listen. Anybody who tells you anything doesn't know what he's talking about, because the regulation did not come out yet. They're going to be changed. over and over again, like the PPP was just changed in a very significant way, was just passed last week. So whatever they're telling you now is not a big enough kamina because things are going to change. But in the PPP program itself, they just extended the 8 weeks to 24 weeks. In other words, you even though you didn't have people, but once you start taking back people, even if you take only a few at a time, you have till the end of the year. If 60% of the money that you got is going to be for payroll, meaning the 2.5 times payroll you got for the PPP program, you have 24 additional weeks, meaning 24 weeks to come up with 60% of it versus 75, 60% of that money for payroll. So I think if it's handled the correct way, a lot of businesses will have a little bit of a profit from the PPP, which would cover not only the rent and not only the utilities and not only the interest payments which are made for, but there's going to be some even left over, because a lot of these employees that you're going to rehire, they're not going to be there rehired for nothing. They're going to be doing things, which is going to bring in business. So it's not going to be a total loss. And you'll be able to have some money left over to cover some of the losses. Now, if you run a substantial business and you really had losses because of COVID-19, they also passed in Congress, as I'm just saying for the business people that are out there, that you could take the 2020 loss from COVID and deduct it in 2019. So if you didn't file your 2019 return yet, and even if you did, you probably can do an amended return. You could take the loss. Let's say you lost $200,000 during the COVID period for specific losses. Instead of deducting it in 2020 when it happened, which means you won't pay taxes, you could move it over to 2019, and if you owed taxes in 2019 because it was a good year, you can reduce that loss by 2019 on the 2019 year. So that's all very helpful. So I just want to leave you with the final word that I want to leave you with, and then you can fire away questions. I can be on all night. It's my pleasure to do this. I had a client that unfortunately, he died at a very young age. And when I went down for an interview, so to speak, he wanted to know if we're compatible as an accountant client. He said to me, look, I know you have a lot of experience. Let me tell you what I need from you. I need one thing from you. I need to learn from your client's mistakes. I don't want to learn from my own mistakes. I want to learn from Saul Friedman's client's mistakes. In other words, what he's saying, if you have somebody to speak to who's gone through this, who's made mistakes or seen clients make mistakes and how it was rectified or how it was prevented, that's what you have to learn from. And this is what I'm trying to do here. If you do some of the things that I suggested, one day you're going to come to me. I had a guy walked into a wedding, and this guy hugs me and kisses me and whatever. We're not even close. It's not even a big client. And he says to me, I have to thank you for making this wedding. I said, what are you talking about? I just came to the chuppah. He says, you are the main mechutten here. You put me into a 401k, and I cashed out of my 401k a piece of it, and with that I made this wedding. Had I not listened to you, it never would have happened. So sometimes people listen. I have no interest whether you follow this or you don't follow it, other than giving satisfaction to myself that I helped somebody. So Hashem should help. You can go for all the brachas to your Rebbeim and to your Rosh Yeshivas and to all of them. But I'm giving you how you have to be hishtadlis. Nobody is wiped out. Nobody should be wiped out. We're a dip in the pool. You make a little dip, then you come out of the pool and you're back where you were. Thank you all for listening. I'm ready to tackle questions, but only those that I have answers to. I'm not going to make up answers, and I'll tell you if I don't know.
Thank you very much. Wow. That was Finances 101. Okay, we have a lot of questions coming in. obviously everybody who could turn on the camera wants to ask a question will go first. Before we do that, let's take a little break. We'll take a little poll over here just to get a feel from the crowd. Everybody ready? All the answers anonymous. There's nothing to worry about. We just want to get a feel from the crowd. Have you been affected financially by COVID-19? You have three options. Either click on yes, no, I'm not sure. I don't want to think about it. Option number two, if yes, if Yitaka got affected by COVID, are you prepared to deal with the aftermaths of COVID-19 virus? Saul, let's see what happens here.
You should have one before my talk or after the talk.
Obviously. Okay, 5, 4. Come on, 2 more seconds. Click the button. People are still going. Here we go. 64% of people have been affected by COVID-19 financially. 31% no, 5%, I don't know what they're doing here tonight. If yes, are you prepared to deal with it? So look at this. 56% of people are not ready to deal with it. Are yes ready to deal with it. That's what I'm saying, yes? Wow, I wasn't ready. 30% no, and 31% that have no idea what will need to be dealt with. They're not sure yet. Interesting number?
Because the question is vague. Are you talking medically or are you talking financially?
It's a financial question. This is a financial segment. If anybody's answering medically here, they probably have to see a good therapist. This is a financial session. Yehuda, can you answer that question? Okay. Anybody who has live questions, please turn on your thing. And for anything, I just want to clarify a few things over here. We're not interested in PPP. If it's good, it's not good. That's not the focus of the segment. Its focus is a business question or a chizuk question, not a technical financial question. I tell you, who wants a technical financial question is more than welcome to, but we're trying to talk more of a global thing. I'm getting a question that's coming. I'm going to ask for Saul first before I, bounce it around. Can you give me an example, something like a 1031 exchange or somebody who has made a mistake that you've seen a mistake?
A very good question. I was going to start with this as an example. In all my years, I've been very much against 1031s. And this leads to one of the things I wanted to say, but I felt it's a long topic and that's why I skipped it. But you asked, let me tell you this. My definition of a 1031. Now, this is not for people that deal in real estate as a parnasa. In other words, they keep buying and selling and selling. They constantly have deals on the table. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking on a guy, he has a multifamily house, 2 multifamily houses, and he can make a big profit, and he does a 1031. So Saul Friedman's definition of a 1031 is you're selling your property at peak and you're buying crap at peak. That is the definition of a 1031. Because you're rushed and whoever has done 1031s. So let me tell you a little story so you'll see this was the most significant story that I had with somebody comes to me and he wants consultation and he says, I have a 1030, I want you to handle my 1031. So I said, why are you coming to me? You go to one of the people, to Madison or to other people that do 1031s. So he says to me, well, he sold the property last year. So I said, if you sold the property last year, you got the money, how can you do a 1031? So he says, well, I heard you're an expert, you're going to figure it out. So I said, nah, you can't you can't do anything about this. So I sat with him an hour. He happened to have a $14 million capital gain, $14 million. And he was going to invest the entire proceeds, about $20 million. He was going to invest in some big shopping center or some very, very big property. I sat with him and I said, look, you're 38 years old. You're soon going to make weddings for kids, this and that. I said, look, the tax will be, let's say, $2.5 million. So you're going to be left with $11 million, let's say, net. Here's what I suggest you do. Take $5 million of the $11 million, take it off the table. Put it into something else. Keep it away from real estate. Take it off the table. Your $6 million, buy yourself, do whatever you want to do. Like this, you pay the tax. You don't do a 1031. You have enough time to do it. And you'll know you have $5 million because I was talking about somebody's about to marry off kids and somebody has a high lifestyle, let him have it. Yeah, thank you for your advice. He says to me, send me a bill. Of course, I don't send bills for things like this. About 2 years later, I remember I went to the Continental Hall in Williamsburg for a wedding, and I meet the guy that recommended me this client. So I say to him, you know, I haven't heard from this guy a long time. How's he doing? I'm just curious how he's doing. He says, he points, turns around, on Hayward Street, there is a supermarket. I don't know if you've been there. There's a big supermarket. He says he's a cashier in the supermarket today. I said, what do you mean? He says, you know what happened to this guy? He bought the property. The property was a dud. He lost all the money. He had an IRS audit. The IRS came back and said, this was not a 1031. Therefore, you have to pay taxes on the $14 million that you made. Of course, he didn't have any of the money. He had to file personally bankrupt. And then what could he do? He didn't have a profession. He didn't have a pronos in his hand, a fach, like they used to call a fach. He didn't have it. So he became a cashier. He's making $16 an hour. So you asked me about 1031s. Instead of doing a 1031, take some money off the table first, and then buy property like a mensch when the time is right.
Thank you very much. Good story. Okay, I think Charlie Harary is on. Charlie, are you on?
I'm on.
Hi. Thank you for coming.
Of course. Pleasure.
We have 500 people here and 450 people, and everybody wants to attack you with questions. What should I do?
That's a nice chus.
How do
Thank
I
you.
do it? Should I raffle it to the highest bidder?
Uh,
Just joking around. So can I start shooting questions at you? You ready?
I'm ready.
Just to give you a little recap, we're dealing financial. We have Saul Friedman, who's a top accountant. We have a few business owners on from Lakewood. It's a Lakewood crowd. Everybody financially is doing very hard. And we feel now that we're trying, obviously there's a business part of it and there's a chizik part of it. So we're really just trying to tackle both angles. And I'm really thankful that you came on. I'm gonna put the first person on, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course.
Baruch Brog, you have a question?
Hi, Charlie. How are you? Thanks for
How
my time. I appreciate it a lot. So I built my business 3 years ago. You know, I was finally starting to make a profit, and now it's back to zero. I lost it all. You know, yes, I know Hashem runs the world, and this is a test. But how am I supposed to not be anxious and rely on him if I can't pay my bills, my rent, and my workers?
Great question. So let me make sure I understand your question properly. You have a business that you want. It's going well. When things are going well, of course, the Kodesh Baruch Hu is delivering for you, so things are amazing. Now things aren't going well, so what's up? Like, you're supposed to deliver for me, Hashem. Like, this is how it works. You deliver for me, and when you deliver for me, we're good. And once you stop delivering for me, we got problems. So, great question. And not only that, I'm happy you asked it because lots of guys feel it, but they don't articulate it. So I'm happy that you're articulating it. This is a major, fundamental piece of our Yiddishkeit. When we grow up in a world, and everyone has this to some extent, it's a relationship that's called Yiras HaOnesh, in which we grow up, we don't really want to be doing mitzvahs. Like, if we could be honest, like, we don't really want to daven. We really want to not daven. Like, we're pumped for no tachon. Like, what's a greater simcha in the world when we had shul than, like, Beis Nisan? Like, go to any shul in North America when we were going to shuls, like, when Beis Nisan would come and, like, the Baal Tefillah, like, oh, Shalom Rabbi, when he went, like, everyone's like, skadal, until finally, like, what's going on? Is there a chassan? No. Is it a bris? No. It's Nissan, and guys are like calculating, it's Nissan. That means I don't say tachon for a month, and if it falls out on a Monday or a Thursday, la Yehudim Haisa, what's a greater joy to a guy than no tachon on a Monday or a Thursday, right? I mean, if we could cut out Shemona Esrei, it would be even better. Who wants to daven? But we have to, because we were little. They told us if you don't daven, God's going to spiritually zap you or something. And we bought it. It's called Yiras HaOnesh. Right? It's great. It's the beginning of relation to Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's the first building block. When you're little, it's called consequence. When you get a 4-year-old in the street, you can explain to him about cars and velocity. You're going to say, listen, you go on the street again, I'm going to hit you. Why? Because I need you to know that you can't go into this space. You're little, you only understand consequence. You don't understand depth. For lots of people, the relationship to the Kodesh Baruch Hu is a relationship of yiras ha'onesh. I don't really want to be doing stuff. I don't really want to connect to you. I don't really feel you in my life. I don't really appreciate that the energy of my life is a chelek elokami ma'al mamish. It's literally a piece of Hashem. In truth, what you are is you're the provider. You're Amazon.God. I'm a Jew. I don't like waiting online. The rest of the world's got to call Amazon. I get to go back door. I get to open up a book and say some Tehillim, and all of a sudden I get like spiritual goodies. And when we begin our lives that way, and if we don't upgrade our relationship to the Kodesh Baruch Hu to levels called Yiras Haromus or Avas Hashem, which is a whole discussion if you guys want to have another time, what ends up happening is, as long as life is good, we're good. Because it's Yiras HaOnesh, so if I don't get punished, it makes sense. But the minute good people start not getting stuff, the whole relationship breaks down. Because the only relationship really was, it was like a master to a servant. It was what you deliver for me. So I'll answer it in two ways. Number one, if you live a life and the relation to the Kodesh Baruch Hu is Yiras HaOnesh, you're only living a 100th of the joy of Yiddishkeit. The joy of a Yid is not Hashem give me money. The joy of a Yid is I have Hashem. I have Hashem. Like I got my dad who is the creator of the universe. That is so much greater than money. I had a lady one time at a lecture come to me and she said, I talk about this a bunch. So like, this was about this. And she said to me that she was a very successful attorney. And she had a lot of brothers and sisters, and her father was a very successful attorney. And her father knew she would be the heir apparent. You can imagine. So she was, and she was it. And she was maybe in her 60s. Her father had this big firm, and she took over for him. And her father died 2 years earlier. And she came to me afterwards, and we were talking about this concept of Hashem, and she said, you know, my whole life, me and my dad were close, but we're close because of the business. I was really smart. I did great in school. He was a big lawyer. I ended up coming in young. We spoke about cases. And her father passed away. She goes, you know, if I had a choice right now between giving up my entire career, everything, Lamafreya, everything, and getting 24 hours with my father, that's it. My whole career, or 24 more hours with my dad. One 24-hour period with my dad, she goes, I would drop my career in a second. When you're a Yid and you say to yourself, I would drop every dime to be able to feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence in my life for a day, the conversation of like, you didn't hook me up or I'm struggling, where am I running to? Where does the kid run to when you bring him in to get a shot, but to his father's arms? If you're feeling this way, welcome to the club. We all have a piece of Yiras HaOnesh in us. And the fact that you can articulate it means that you're a person that is astute enough to be able to think about it in your mind. But now it's giving you the ability to say, I don't want this. I don't want a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu that's only going to be determined based on whether he delivers for me financially. I want a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu where I feel him with me all the time. I'm a chelek elokami ma'al. I have a piece of Hashem inside me. That's like an 11-year-old telling my dad, like, if you don't give me dinner, I'm leaving. Where are you going? The father's going to be like, what? Where are you going? How could you leave Hashem? If you leave Hashem, you disintegrate. But it's bigger than that. That's what this period of time is all about. This period of time is all about is saying, this is a time of yechidus. Kodesh Baruch Hu is like, go home. Because the only people that go home are family members. The only people that are alone in their house are husbands and wives, are family. Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, I need you to be family now. Don't just be the guy collecting a check. How do you do it? It's a lot of work, but you have to first want it. If you don't do I'm going to give you like a prescription. This is straight out of Rabbi Nachman. Every single day of your life, if you want to change your relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, is 15, 20 minutes before you start your day, speak to Hashem. Sit down, cup of coffee, you and your dad. Every day. Hashem, I'm dying over here. Come on. You're my dad. Can you help me with this? I'm sorry for doing this. Husband and wife, they got to talk. Dad and child got to talk. Start talking to the Kodesh Baruch Hu a little bit. Start asking him for a real relationship, and what you'll find is that whether he delivers for you or not, you're going to realize that the most valuable thing you have in your life is the schus, that you are the Ben Melech. And when you start to feel the pride of what it means to Ben Melech, Bani Esdaiti, you'll see the business will be different. It'll come, won't come, I can't predict that. But you'll be walking around with a certain level of pride of being a prince that'll transcend whatever money you have.
Well, thank you.
Shkoyach for that question. Thanks for your courage.
Ready for the next one?
Ready.
I'm
With God's help. I don't know. I hope.
This is a general question, and it's a lot of people have this question, so we're going to try to generalize it.
Okay.
Guy, I'm working hard to make my parnasa. I wake up 8 in the morning. Sometimes, I work till 9, 10 at night. I'm trying to come up every different types of ways to make money. I'm trying to survive. My friends tell me that I live on high standards. I don't think so. I'm still happy. When the situation hit the world, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything stopped to continue. I tried investing into something, but it didn't work. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I'm worried. I do not see a way out. My relationships with all my fake friends are falling apart because I can't face it with no income. Like I was Mr. I thought I had it all, but now when life hits you and you don't have, as they said, I'll say the joke, Charlie, because you're probably going to love it. The guy was a millionaire. Saul, you probably know this joke. The guy was a millionaire. Everybody came to for eights. Everybody needed advice. He lost all his money. He said, okay, I understand they don't come to me for tzedakah anymore, but what happened? They don't come to me for eights anymore. Charlie, take it away.
To your side. There's a lot. That question's got a lot of pieces to it. Mitzvah Shem, I should be zoch to answer it well. It's got a lot of pieces. Let's just take piece by piece over here. So the first piece is the piece of losing money. This is a big yesod. In the world of business, you have to realize that there's a history of successful businessmen. Saul knows much better than I because he's been doing this, and he knows this in a way that very few people do. We forget sometimes that most successful businessmen have failed an enormous amount of times. Like really successful businessmen. I mean, I was just reading a book on Elon Musk, who maybe is the most celebrated entrepreneur today, who has failed at levels that no one can ever even dream. He's lost more money than most people will ever make in combined. If you go back to the 80s, to like the Masora, the Vanderbilts, and the Rockefeller, if you do your homework and you're mamish holding in business, and you're mamish getting into not just like the cover of Inc. magazine, like the real stuff, if you're really metapel in the Indian of business, you'll find that almost every successful individual has had moments of walls, had moments of difficult times, had moments in which everything was going. I personally spent many years in a very large real estate company. I was zoche when I was young to be in the inner circle of a successful CEO. And I've watched him almost lose the empire multiple times. And if he would have, it would have been devastating. The difference between individuals that are successful over the long run isn't based on the money in the market. It's not based on whether or not you're going through a once-in-a-generation market correction or disruption based on a virus that nobody knew about. The difference is whether or not when things go down, do you hit the pillow? It's a matter of personal strength. And it's not just in business, it's in life. If we walk around, some people walk around, God bless them, it's like it's green lights the whole way through. Someone's basically supporting them until they're old enough, and then at the end of the day, the risks aren't high enough so that when they hit their first major wall, it's collapse. And when you look at the lives of great people, whether it's in business or in klal, or parents that are raising children that are very complicated, you're looking at people that are resilient. Resilience isn't like a nice thing that like we add to it because it's soft. If you don't know how to run a spreadsheet, then maybe you can be resilient. It's exactly the opposite. Resilience is the most important muscle you have to build if you want to be successful for the long term. Because even when you're successful, people are going to knock you off your perch or try to knock you off your perch. The difference between people that make success over time and not is not the circumstances. It's what happens when they are up against challenge. For those of you who know, I do a show every morning called The Daily Boost. Before I leave, I'll post it on the thing for those who want. And we do this because 3 weeks ago we started realizing that people don't have the skills to understand the mind. So every day for 20 minutes, 9 to 9:20 live, and then we post it later on Instagram and whatnot. We do this. So this is a long discussion. This isn't. I don't want to just gloss over this, but understand that the power, the muscle called your mind, needs to be sharpened every day. Every day, the most valuable. Your soul and your brain are your most valuable muscles. If you're not working them every day, even if you're brilliant, even if you have a lot of money in the bank, even if you have a business that's working, ultimately there's an opening in the armor. So the first aspect of that question is, I am hitting a major wall. How do I not become depressed? And the answer is the connection between walls and depression is made up. There's no need to connect, I'm hitting a wall and I'm depressed. That is an invention that we make when you live in a world and life becomes a little easy. When you go to a gym and someone gives you weights and says, push these till you fail, you don't go, whoa, 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 whoa. Because if I push my muscles and the muscle fails, I'm going to be embarrassed in shul. He'd be like, no, 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 that's the point. We're doing this so that your muscles fail. Because if your muscles fail, then they build back stronger. If something happens in life, and God forbid we are stuck against some level of failure, the idea that that means that I am a failure is a made-up invention that we do in life. It comes because when you come to a very structured environment, you're always competing. But you can't allow that to be your mentality. We are in a period of time right now that can make you or break you. This is once in a generation, I hope, Hashem's help. That means that people are going to come out of this broken. And people are going to come out of this bulletproof. And the difference is going to be in your mentality. If you dig to a place where you realize that you're a piece of Hashem and the Kodesh Baruch Hu knows exactly what He's doing, and I don't mean to go back to Rabbi Nachman, but how could you not? And mitzvah gdol is b'simcha tavin, which means empowerment. You have to assert your will. You have to be strong. You have to be able to fight through the feelings of I'm not enough. That's made up. That's Yetzer Hara chirping in your ear, because there's nothing better for the Yetzer Hara than a Jew who is depressed. Because as soon as you're depressed, you can forget davening, you can forget your marriage, you can forget being a dad. As soon as they get you to be depressed, you're not enough. The chizik is that you're a piece of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And if you don't buy it, you're missing out. Like your mama's missing out. You're playing with like a wooden stick. You're not playing with an M16. So the idea that a person goes through challenge and the response to challenge is depression. No, if it's clinical, fine. Go see a doctor. I'm talking about if it's just general. And the response to challenge is disempowerment, then that's a break in the thinking. And the way you do it is, it's complicated. We'll talk, I mean, for those who come in the morning, I did this morning, it's called act as if. The way you have to hijack your conscious brain and basically act as if who you want to be, and then your brain, because of neuroplasticity, which I don't know if we have the time to get into here, neuroplasticity would ultimately. And what was the second part of that question?
Let me see if I have it. Saul, can I get you to jump in on this question? What's your opinion?
Well, one of the things that that this questioner mentioned that jumped out at me. Again, I'm talking purely from the Gashmias point of view. Charlie, you'll forgive me. Not in your line. He said, well, some friends say I might be too high of a living standard, and I don't think so. Let me say this to you. I can afford a lot of luxuries in life. After all this work that I did, I can still afford to travel and to have lavish restaurant dinners and whatever. But we have to learn from this COVID matter. Everybody has to come out of this saying, let me do something a little bit different than I used to do till now because of this COVID mindset. Whether it's because of financial gain or financial strategy, or it's because you want to better your ways and ruchnius, the reasons don't matter. When I walked into, my children took me and my wife, her birthday, to Reserve Cut. And I have nothing against Reserve Cut. They have great steak. But when I saw 5 Yingalites sitting at a table, and then I saw the prices that they charge. So these guys probably spent $1,000 to $1,500 for this particular meal. It bothered me very much for 2 reasons. First of all, what business does 5 or 6 Yingalites have to go out to eat and leave their wives home? That's a terrible thing in a marriage, that you have a night out with the boys. Yeah, once in a while you want to do it, but that's not the right way to do things. But that's one thing. That's not the topic for today. But what right do you have to spend $1,500 for a meal when there's so many poor people out there that can't afford Cheerios and milk every day? What are you showing your children? What are you showing your people? What are you showing the next generation? I mean, it has
Sorry
to
for jumping in, Paul. Saul, 1 second. Charlie, this is a separate topic. Maybe we'll end with this one. The general theme that we've seen is that the last few years when people are making very quick money, whether it's buying big real estate or nursing homes, the fast cash, the young guys who start making this crazy, enormous amount of money, they have favorite spending of flying private, eating out in crazy restaurants, just throwing money on weddings, $200,000-$300,000. That's the topic that Saul wants to hit on a little bit.
I'm cheering for him. I want to just make sure I can add that. So Saul, you continue, because I'm cheering for you, because I'm seeing it from the other side of the impact that it's having. But I want to finish your thoughts, and I want to make sure I could comment as well on it.
Hash it out.
So these people that made this, exactly my point. These people that made this quick money and spent it. Okay, let's talk about real estate. All real estate deals today are very successful because we have very low interest rates. Let me tell you, it was standard that a bank interest rate for a mortgage on a commercial piece of property went to 7-8%. At a 7-8% interest, every single piece of real estate that these young people are buying and flipping gets sent back to the bank. It cannot survive. What do you do in a case if this happens? They used to, like the Gemara says, if they're used to riding on a white horse, you got to give them a white horse. But where is the money that's being spent on weddings, the money that's being spent on bar mitzvahs? One wants to outdo the other. They're only doing it because my friend down the block did it. I've gone to bar mitzvahs, especially, I don't want to knock neighborhoods, but especially in the 5 towns. They want to outdo the next guy. They want to show that they can do something. So when they hand deliver you an invitation that probably costs $25 to print each invitation, and it doesn't go by mail, it's being hand delivered for another $10. You're throwing money away in the garbage. I'm not saying you should be stingy. I'm not a stingy person. Baruch Hashem, I take care of many, many people, the people that know me. But just to throw money, like you're enticing the Yetzer Hara or the somebody to come in here and say, hey, you're such a balgaiba with your money. You're spending the money and throwing the money around just like this. We're going to show you what can happen. Min HaShamayim, we can show you. I remember when
my texts are blowing up now. Everybody's screaming. This is the hottest topic. How everybody is suffering from one another, from spending this crazy money.
I didn't want to say it because I don't want to knock people. But let me tell you, when I married off my daughter, and my son-in-law is on here. Okay, I don't care if he listens. I decided to do a nice wedding. We did it in the Shalimar. This was like 30 plus years ago. Today she's a Baba herself. And it was affair. I didn't do it in Teres Chaya or in any of those halls. It was a little fancy wedding. Not in the Hilton. Always a fan. I went to ask my Rabbi Kasha Rose, whoever knew him was privileged to know him, and if you didn't, you should get to know who this person was. I said to him, Rebbe, am I allowed to make a wedding like this? He knows I'm about tzedakah and everything else. He says, I'll tell you. You're allowed to do whatever you want. There's no issur against doing weddings like this. But if you really want to feel good, here's what you should do. The same night that you're marrying off your daughter, marry off a Yusam or your son. Pay for the wedding. Now, if you did this, Chetz Yolachem, Chetz Hashem, if you did this, you can do this. And Baruch Hashem, for all my 5 children, that's what I did. It has to go with a cheshbon. Just to throw money out, now, people that had dips now, if they went back in the history and said, look, now I have nothing, I lost everything. But if I think back the last 5 years and said, had I not spent this, had I not spent that, had I not thrown out money this way or that way, I would have had a few dollars put together, maybe 3-4 years of savings that a person should have, and maybe I wouldn't be in the hole. So that's one of the things you gotta, don't knock out somebody else's eyes to show what you can do different or better. I'm not talking about people that can't afford it. That's criminal. If you can't afford it and you borrow for this, that's mamish criminal. I'm talking about even people that could afford it. Be bescheiden, be quiet. Don't do things that people are going to talk. Oh, look at this guy, what a bar mitzvah he made. He had a 20-piece band and 4 singers and whatever, and they were roasting cowboy steaks for everybody. What do you need it for? It doesn't do any good.
Charlie.
I would concur. I heard a great vart that I'll never forget. Someone once said to me, one of the most undervalued heroes.
The next question, or ask the Roman, because I got to get the other guys involved.
I'm muted. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So, am I good? I want to share with you a quick vart that I'll never forget. Someone once said to me, the most undervalued hero in Torah is a man named Nisanel ben Suar. Who is Nisanel ben Suar? He was the Nasi for Yisachar. Why is he a hero for? Because he was the second guy to bring the dedication to the Mishkan. So Nachshon shows up with his stuff. And all of a sudden the next guy shows up. And what would the next guy do? How much did you bring? 1 kara? Okay, I'll bring 2 karas. How many oxen did you bring? I should throw 1 on. If Nisanel would have upped the ante, you know what would have happened by the 12th guy? They would have had to mortgage the whole tribe. Forget about it. They would have bankrupted Klal Yisrael. And Saul goes, you know what? Nachshon knows what he's talking about. Like, I think it's good. I'm okay with that. He did it, and everyone else did it too. You know what happened? Nisanel saved Klal Yisrael so much agmas nefesh. There's like 7 marriages in like Usher that's still going on because Nisanel didn't one-up Nachshon. That's godless. Godless is like, you know what? If I one up somebody, you know what that means? There's a guy in my kid's class who can't afford it, and he's going to have to afford it. But this is the biggest side that I've learned. When we spend more than we earn, you know what ends up happening? It costs us years of our kids, of our marriage, of our learning, because it costs a lot of money to upkeep it. So we don't cheshbon the time value of money. So I'm in total agreement. I think that if we cut it in half, and by the way, when people are throwing our money for image, it's a great indication that they don't have a lot of confidence. Hashem should bless them with real, true confidence in who they are. But the truth of the matter is, every single one of us should realize that at the end of the day, the greatest value we have is our time. And when I spend too much, what I'm doing is I'm basically mortgaging my time to go out and make more money to be able to support my needs. So Hashem should bless everybody. But I'm in agreement with Saul, big time.
I'd like to change the pace a little bit, if I may. I have Baruch Hashem, my kids are on Zoom here. I'd like to invite any of my kids, if they have something to add that I always tell them that I forgot to say now that you found helpful in your life. I'm considered, you know, an AK. You hear it from young people. By the way, I'm not that you know, I'm very, very proud of them. They're great kids. They're all CPAs, by the way, and that's only because I don't know how to sing. If I would know how to sing, they would all be chazonim. So, but they're only. That's all I can do is I'm a CPA, so they're all CPA. Any of you, Yanka Shimon or Avrumi or Sandy or Moshe Chaim or Benjamin, anybody
you know,
something?
Mordechai Kasira wants to ask a question. Mordechai, you want to unmute?
I'm trying to avoid questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Saul. Thank you, Charlie. This is a straight up accounting question. In managing the business, there's I'm in the retail business, and we know the cost of goods. We know our overheads. We try to have, you know, a good set of books. There's a lot of incidentals that come up in running my style business. We do a lot of gifting, so there's wrapping, and then the customer wants it rewrapped. The customer wants, oh, could you throw in the free delivery? There's so many different add-ons that the customers might want. Is there a way to quantify that, to know how much it's actually costing and how to incorporate that in the cost and for the success of and the profit margin?
Let me answer this very briefly, and I invite you to, if you want to discuss it with me, whether in person, my Brooklyn office, my Lakewood office, I can tell, but let me give it to you.
I discussed it with Avrumi already.
Oh, so then what do you need me? He knows better than I do. But what
I just gave him the quick preview, which is it's important to know your cost and to know your margins. Yeah. The idea is to get it all into the. Go ahead, Tati, take it away.
Yeah, no, just to answer your question. Again, it's a separate topic. It's not what I intended to do here. But what you if you have enough data, it will tell you what your general overhead is. Besides, you buy a plate and you sell a plate. You know what the plate costs you. You know what you sell it for. Okay, that's your cost of goods sold. The rest of the stuff, I'm talking the plate, the wrapper, and whatever. The rest of the stuff, additional labor or additional packaging or delivery, should really, once you have the data, you should really be able to get a percentage of what the total cost vis-a-vis the cost of the actual plate. In other words, you might determine that this side things, all these side things cost you 6% of sales. Now, 6% of the cost of sales. So in other words, if you have a plate that costs you $10 and you mark it up to $15, let's assume you take a 50% markup. But you know that it's 6% is that general overhead, then you would add to your selling price that 6%, which should cover all the other ones. So you have to develop a percentage, and that's all based on data that comes through. You see each month.
Okay, so my only contribution to his question was to say as follows: when you're building a trial balance, when you're building a P&L, right, and you're trying to calculate it, you need to know clearly exactly what your cost of goods sold is. In other words, if he's saying it costs him an extra, the guy says, give me an extra bag, and he knows that this bag costs him 50 cents, right? And if he knows that wrapping this, okay, labor is a different issue. It gets a little more complicated to cost accounting. But every single one of those items that are directly related to the sale should be in the cost of goods sold section. And you know,
the problem with what you're saying is he is doing a sale, and he wants to know what to charge. He doesn't have time at that time to look at his trial balance and figure out what the extra cost is. I'm trying to be practical. If you are running a $100 million company, Avrumi's system is correct. It's all in place, all in the computer. But you're on now. So when you make up your price, you have to assume that everybody is going to want that extra packaging, and that better be safe to recover the cost than lose out. So let's say it's the general overhead on that. I'm not talking about telephone now. I'm talking about the extra packaging, the delivery, as a percentage of the sale. You apply it to your cost of goods sold, and that's how you should sell it. But there's a lot more that goes into this that Rumi touched on, which is cost accounting, which is it's not for now.
Menachem.
Yes, Charlie, before you go, I just want to thank you for being on the show tonight. And quick question. When you start talking, just 100 miles per hour with all the information, if somebody wants to know practical, to get connected to Hashem, to learn about the Chelik Kamimal and all these things that you spoke about, where could a person start? Where should he start? Is it a book, a sefer? What would you say?
I'll answer it in 3 ways. Number 1, remember, all roads lead to the king. If you can be doing, I've learned this from my Rebbeim. You could have two Jews learning a Daf Gemara, 2 Jews going to daven. 1 Jew stops at the surface, and that's it. That's all he's got. He's got the chitzonius of Klal of Yiddishkeit. Another Jew says, "I'm doing this to find you, Hashem." The ratzon to try to find the Kodesh Baruch Hu and what you're doing will allow you to connect in a much deeper way. If your intention, the physical world loves bottom lines. The physical world loves stuff. Show me what you got. The spiritual world loves intention. The intention of a Yid, the Baal HaTanya says, you could have 2 Jews sitting at a table. 1 Jew eats to satisfy his stomach. 1 Jew eats to be holy. The nitzots, the spark that is within that food, and the klipa for those who are holding, 2 people, 1 person is bringing more klipas and darkness into himself, and 1 person is bringing up, literally, is being malin nitzotos. In Yiddishkeit, it's about intention. If your intention is to daven, to learn, whatever you're doing for Kodesh Baruch Hu, you're going to be able to connect in a deeper way. Number 2, you have to learn Panemius. Some Seder somewhere in Panemius, whether it's Chassidus a little bit, or for those who learn a little bit more of Kabbalah, or whether it's Musar, there's got to be a sefer that fits within to the Masorah that you feel comfortable in, that is going to drive you towards Emunah. That was one of the earliest things that a mentor of mine spoke about to the chevra of guys that were connected to him. If your Seder does not include 5 minutes of Emunah, Bitachon, Panemius, it's like going through life without like the arms to be able to deal with the challenges. If Emunah, most people, their Emunah is, ask somebody where Hashem is, they go, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. I'm like, really? That's the last person you read? Uncle Moshe? The philosopher of most Jews is Uncle, I love Uncle Moshe, but like...
Uncle Moshe. Harav Uncle Moshe.
I love Uncle Moshe. Mamish, at least he teaches people that the Abish is everywhere. I'm saying at least that's the idea. But like, if you ask most people, like, yeah, Hashem is everywhere, right? Like that's, right? So if it's not part of learning and it's not inside, and the last piece, honestly, it's a practice that has been lost, but I think it's a practice that is from the Kadmonim until now. The idea of walking and talking and connecting to the Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's mamish. I think this is what they were doing. I don't know what they were doing. When the Chassidim Misharim Shem Sha'achas, and they were sitting for an hour, they were trying to like get close. If you're not speaking to the Kodesh Baruch Hu in a regular way, 3 things: try it for a month and then tell me that I was wrong. If you try this for 1 month, 10 minutes a day, you and Hashem in English, a Seder, an Amunah, and when you do any mitzvah, just start and go, I'm doing it to go to the king. I want to get underneath. It's a shame. The juice of Yiddishkeit is the Eibishter. There's a lot of wonderful Orthodox Jews who feel empty, and it's a travesty that there's emptiness in Yiddishkeit, when Yiddishkeit is the most delicious thing in the world, and it comes because we're satisfied with the surface. And it also comes from thinking that we also, by the way, think that our efforts are actually bringing Parnasa. That's also a big misconception. Like we think like our work is actually bringing Parnasa. That's a whole nother conversation.
I have questions coming from the left and the right. I'm not trying to cut you short. Can I push you for one more?
Yeah.
Okay. Troll, you hear me? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Who can't hear you?
You hear me?
Yeah. Speak up a little louder.
Turn off my Bluetooth. 1 second.
Oh, yeah,
Can you hear me better now?
Much better. First of all, Sarbelo sends regard to your daughter. That's first of all. Number 2, ask your
Okay, I just got the text from my wife. Thank you.
She got it.
Go ahead. Really quickly. Are we being too complacent? We started off talking about coronavirus, people affected financially. I just lost my shver, people are affected medically. Are we being too complacent? What I mean to say is, we're looking at the protests for the last week and a half. We see what's going on. Obviously, That's not the way we want to see things. But I foresee inevitably in the next week or two, next month or two, we're going to have some friction with the government, because if they're not going to let us open up camps and schools and shuls and weddings and everything, it's going to hit a point where people are going to turn around and say, and specifically business owners as well. Are we being a little bit too complacent about we're just going to be sheep and do what everybody says and we're going to follow the rules? And we see what the opposite extreme is, and the government goes and kowtows to them and says, "Oh yeah, definitely do whatever you want." Are we being complacent, or should we continue just being good little boys? I want to hear your take on it. This could be for either for Saul or for Charlie, or both.
Let me begin. Let me first. I'll defer. I'll start with Saul, and then I'll answer afterwards. Let me give cover first to Saul to start.
I have a very brief answer. I would not answer this in a public forum.
My answer, I'll answer it, but the way a Yid operates in this world is not like, a Yid doesn't live. We have to play by certain rules because David just shined the spotlight, and we got to live with that. And so the idea that it's not fair. It doesn't work for us. Now, Baruch Hashem, the Eibishter gave us what He gave us, and so we know how to get what we got to get done. It's amazing when you see what Klal Yisrael could accomplish. I mean, you drop us here from Europe in 2 generations, like you can't even you can't go to a nursing home or real estate. I mean, forget about it. Like you put us in Eretz Yisrael, we didn't know how to fly an airplane, and now you got basically the whole world getting sort of flight lessons from a bunch of Israelis. Like, the Kadosh Baruch Hu has a way of making Yidden figure out how to prosper. But my personal opinion is that, but with Chachma, Bina V'das, that's how we have to live our lives, with Chachma, Bina V'das, because we're playing for the king. And when you play for the king, you don't live in everyone else's rules. Whether we like it or not, that's the schus that we have. So, we may lose in the beginning, but you never lose in the end when you play for the king.
Okay, I have one more. Can I put on one more?
Yeah.
Ben, do you want to answer this question, Ben? No, man? No. Okay.
Just as a point of information, I reminded myself. Somebody sent me yesterday WhatsApp a picture. It must have been done in Williamsburg, in one of the Hasidic places. A bunch of kids, Hasidic kids, are having a carnival. I don't know if you guys saw it. I can't get over this, what I saw. I wish I could put it on. And a carnival, you're supposed to safe distance and everything, okay? There's a little sign somebody wrote to them, and it says, in memory of George Floyd. That's when you call Chochmah. The Jewish people have a way that somebody else can't think of.
That's what I'm saying. Chochmah Bina V'das. Someone said I was deferring.
The brilliance behind this. Let's join the fun, but let's have a carnival. Oh, here's the thing. Justice for George Floyd.
No one's doing that in the 5 towns, though. That's just a chop. That's a special chop.
Only Hasidic kids.
It's different levels of Bina and Das, depending on where you are.
It's unbelievable.
It's beautiful.
So getting back to what I was saying before, if any of my children want to say something, add or subtract something.
1 second. Yankee, are you on?
I can be on if you'd like.
Yankee, ask away. You have everybody here listening to you.
Okay, it's really directed to Saul because you brought up the topic, but whoever wants to answer it.
Quite a few people asked this question. I'm just letting you know.
Okay, Mr. Friedman, I actually used your son's services too at times professionally, so we appreciate your business. You started off that young man should have 4 years of savings. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you should have $400,000 put away. Now, for someone that has a business or someone that's working for years and he's working towards it, after 30 years of working, maybe he can be there. But someone who's living check to check, And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to the show that may be there. How do we get there? Is there, I know you mentioned $10 a month for each kid. $10 a month for each kid, I don't think reaches 4 years of parnassa. So maybe you can enlighten us or elaborate on that.
I was talking mainly to people that are in business and got wiped out with COVID-19, got wiped out. That's what I was talking about. Let me talk about people that are on salary. Okay, it is very, very tough because the salaries that are being paid today, even by Hamisha places, barely covers the people's expenses. Doesn't take into account the high tuition, camp costs, and everything else. And you're really living from paycheck to paycheck. It's very, very difficult. However, one of the advantages that you do have, that no matter what, if you have a good parnassa, if you're a dedicated employee and you're doing your job, then even if the real estate market dips or even a COVID-19 happens, you're still secure, at least in your job. Usually, you're secure in your job. If, however, your job is such that if any little thing happens, the boss is going to say you're fired or you're laid off or whatever, you have to start thinking along the lines of maybe doing something, whether it's education, learning what we used to call a fach, a trade, doing something that you shouldn't have to live from a paycheck to paycheck. Because if you're unfortunate that you have a job which you could be replaced tomorrow, and so even your job is not secure, then you need to really rethink your whole life and see what else you can do. Unfortunately, today, and don't get me started with this, yeshivas are not teaching their bochurim English, let's call it that way, secular education. So when they come out, they should know how to do an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document. Unfortunately, they come out and they basically, they don't even have math skills to be able to do things. So to get a good job somewhere, a high-paying job, is very, very difficult without getting a secular education, which is very important. But I'm talking in Lakewood. I still want to go visit my grandchildren, so I can't say what I think, because they'll put up barbed wires around it and they won't let me in. So I got to be very careful. But what I was talking about, Prince, I gave a talk a couple of years ago. I gave a talk. I was the fifth speaker. There was a panel of 5 speakers. I was the fifth. It was geared to the internet, to the Amazons, Amazon, eBay, and all those things. And they were giving advice, they were giving friendly advice as to how to work with them and how to keep track and how to get your name up on the top. And they were doing all these kinds of things. And I was the fifth one, not talking about actually how you're supposed to deal with the Amazons of the world from a marketing point of view. I was there as a plain accountant. And I figured, this is becoming very boring to me. And I figured I'd like to shock the oiler. And there's people on here who are there. And I start off the following way. I say, I've never been in a room with 300 lazy people. And I pause. I never, and then say it again, so many lazy people are in this room. And probably my kids or my staff who were there probably thought something happened to me. I became like Joe Biden or something. Anyway, so I explained. I say, you guys that are dealing with Amazon, you don't have a business. You're talking about 3-4 years ago. You don't have a business. In 5 minutes, Amazon puts you out of business. What are you going to do? This is not a business. You're making money, fine. because today you're here and tomorrow what is your plan B? Why are you happy sitting around? The orders come in, the orders go out. Once a week you get your money. You don't know if you're getting all your money or part of your money, but it's coming in. Your sales now this year were 10 million, and last year it was only 2 million. You're growing by leaps and bounds, and you get lazy. Everything goes automatic. There's a secretary in the office that makes sure everything is running right. You don't have to do anything. You have time to come in 1 o'clock to the business and go home 4 o'clock. You're lazy. What is your plan B? Do you have a plan B if this doesn't work? You're dealing on the internet. Are you branding a product? Are you finding a niche to go into? Are you working with other people other than Amazon? Are you selling direct? If you're only dealing with Amazon, you're lazy people. Look at plan B. Do plan B. After that, so many people came over to me and said, I was thinking myself that what kind of business this is. Now you look, and I needed somebody to wake me up. Look, in the past 2-3 years, how many people were put out of business by Amazon for whatever reason. You can't, by us, a klal, if a client comes to me and he says, is my business healthy? I see if he has 20% of his sales to one customer, it's not a healthy business anymore. You have to diversify. You can't rely that your business is relying on one customer. I was 30 years, I was at 6201 15th Avenue. It was called the Carfunkel building. On the penthouse, I rented. Why was that penthouse empty? Because a company, I forget the name of the company, had the whole building. And in one day, they got put out of business. They were dealing exclusively with Montgomery Ward. I don't know if you guys heard of that. It was a big chain of department stores like Macy's or something like that. They filed bankruptcy, and in one day, this 50-year-old company went out of business. They relied on one company. So when you are in a job, start thinking. I'll tell you this. Many people have jobs. They don't want to go into business because basically you're risking. You're really risking. You have a job and you need money to start. You need to do things. You're working for somebody else. You're assured you're getting your paycheck. Everything is fine. I was working in the early 70s, in 70, 71. I was working in an accounting firm until I got a job. That's another story. And I was earning at that time $350 a week. It was $18,000 a year, which was a very nice sum of money. And I always had the urge to go out on my own. And I went to speak to my father. And I told my father, I have side clients because you have to do something on the side. Like any salaried employee, should start doing things on the side to be able to make a better living. I had clients $4,000 a year. So you're talking about $80 a week. That's what I had clients. And I told my father, I have an urge. I want to go out on my own. I'm giving up an $18,000 job, $350 a week for $80 a week. What should I do? I have 2 children already. What should I do? And here's what my father, who was a Holocaust survivor, what he told me. He said to me, if you decide, forget about accounting, if any one of you decides to open a shoe store on 13th Avenue, or I don't know what the main avenue is in Lakewood, Route 9 or whatever, I'm not so accounting. If you decide to open a shoe store, what happens? You have to rent a store. You have to put down a rent and security. You have to buy shelving. You have to buy inventory. So you have to start with, let's say at that time he said was a $25,000 investment. So my father said to me, you're an accountant. You also have to start with capital. What is the capital? You need 2 years of salary. You can't look that you're only making $80 a week. Just like the shoe store, you're buying shelving. You have to have money put away for 2 years, so you don't have to look that how am I gonna live? That's your investment. Of course, he didn't give me the money. He didn't have money himself, But he said, he gave me the encouragement, and he says, go out, go to your friends, put together some money so you know you have somewhere to live while you're building up your practice. And the rest is history. Had I looked at it saying, well, where am I going to get the next payroll check from? Or how am I going to make a living if I'm starting off on a business? You would never go out on your own. So everybody who's in business, who's a salaried employee, and he's living from check to check, should have some skills. He should start doing things on the side. Maybe his wife can help him, like you, where is he? Mr. Kassira. Your wife helped you. And hard work, keeping good books, not overspending, living within your means. And Mi'at Hashem, all the brachas and all the advice you got from Charlie today, together with that, you'll be successful. And if you'll plan correctly, if another COVID-19 comes up, you're not going to fall into a dip and not get out of it.
And first of all, I want to say thank you to Charlie Royer for coming on. We really appreciate it. Charlie, get a good night's sleep. We'll speak again. Saul, I want to hit you with one or two more questions, and then let's have closing. Let's end it. Is everybody up to that?
I'm okay.
Okay.
It's way past my bedtime anyway, so.
Bad time. We don't have work anymore. What's the problem? We can do this all night. Okay. I'm going to direct this question to everybody, but
this is like a financial mitzvah time.
That's pretty much a really late one. I'm going to direct this question. Hey, Binyamin, I want to start with you. I'm going to direct this question first to Binyamin, but everybody else can jump in. I think it's a good question for him. A friend of mine just closed up shop. She said she was too old and had no energy to start over and rebuild her business. I'm too young. I can't afford to close up my business. What is the best advice you can give to make rebuilding easier? Or how do you know when it's time to call it quits?
Wow. Okay. Great question. See if we can tackle this. It's definitely very hard to start rebuilding, and you need a lot of strength. But if we keep the emunah that we just heard tonight, I think we can do it along together with Hashem. We'll be able to succeed. I can give you some practical tips, perhaps, to go a little bit of things that people should look at, specifically in Lakewood. And if I may say, I will not argue with Saul, it's very chashuv, but Lakewood businesses, including myself, were wiped out. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe we should have been prepared.
This program is meant to argue. Everybody can have their own opinion. Saul is one opinion, your opinion, and we discuss it together. So it's not arguing. So it's great, the advice that he gave, and we should really take it to heart and follow it. Some of the little things that I thought of would be, number one for Lakewood businesses, I think, is customer service. It's something that I myself work on. I brought my staff to a Ritz-Carlton training. We have a review of BP gold standards every single week. It's mandatory for everybody. It's something that's lacking in a lot of businesses, and it's something that really is the glue to any business, any relationship you want to have. Statistics say that 4 out of every 26 unsatisfied customers will complain. The rest will leave. You don't want them leaving. There's so much, ignore your customers and they'll go elsewhere. You don't want them to leave. You want that relationship. You want to keep strong with them. You want to give them something that they're coming for and that's so badly needed in this community. So many companies have store policies. It's the last thing I want to see when I walk into any store. It's very nice you have a policy. I have a problem. I need you to take care of it. Sorry, store policy. It's the worst thing I can hear and can listen to. And it's definitely not good customer service because I can guarantee you, you might have my sale that time. I'm never coming back to you. Something to consider. When I started my business, my father gave me a sticker with a little note saying on it that I stuck in my mind till this very day. And it's doing business without making a profit. It's like eating soup with a fork. You'll keep busy, but you'll stay hungry. It's something that businesses, I believe, today do not understand. They're busy spinning their wheels in the mud and getting nowhere. So many of us are going to fall into that trap of selling price. Anybody can sell price. You have to sell value,
create a differentiator, something that makes you different, something that makes you stand out. If you're going to reopen and do the same thing again, the same thing the guy down the block does, you're going to be back in the same hole as you were before. You're not going to get to any of the areas where Saul was talking about that you need to get to before. Don't be scared to charge a little bit of money. You know, there were the story goes to the two barbers that were in the airport, and one of them was had a big sign on his store, and it said, haircuts $10. The next guy got up on the side right around the street, and he said, you know what, haircuts $8. So he went down, haircuts $6. So he went, haircuts, where are we up to? $5, $4. And they were going out of mind. What are we going to do? Keep beating each other up in price? How are we going to end this whole thing? And finally, one day, this guy comes to work and he sees a sign on the other shop and it says, haircuts 50 cents. 50 cents, my goodness. What am I going to do? How am I going to beat this? And by the end of the day, there was a sign up in his shop and it said, we fix 50-cent haircuts. You gotta make a differentiator. People are going to come for such a thing. It's not a question of price anymore. Who does the price right and who will give me what I need and the service that I need? I think that the most important thing to do is, as we said before, is have proper books. But the books are there to focus on profit. Profit is the bottom line. It's not a question of how much business you're doing. It's more a question of your profit. Are you really making profit or are you not? People will tell you, if you cut your expenses by 10%, you can increase your bottom line by as much as 50%. There are little nuances. There are little things that you can do that can make a huge difference in your bottom line. Oshi, I sent you something. Do you think you could put that up for a second?
Let me try. Give me 1 second.
The point over here is that you can actually raise your prices by 10% and afford to lose 25% of your business. People are saying, how can I raise my prices? I'm going to lose all my customers. You can lose 25% of your business. Look at this very quickly. You buy something for $100, you mark it up 30%, you sell it for $130. Your profit is $30. You sell 100, you make $3,000 profit. Focus on that profit. If you go up 10%, okay, I didn't even go up 10%. You bought it for $100. I went up to 140. I went 40%. So 10% would actually be 143. Went up just to 40%. My profit is now $40. For me to make the same $3,000 profit, I only have to sell 75 of them. That means I can lose 25% of my business. I can take care of my customers. I can be dedicated to them more. I can talk to them. I can create relationships, still make the same amount of money. This will bring you to even have more business, and more profit. But what do? We put everything on sale. I'm not talking about 50% buy one, get one free. Buy the same thing for $100. I put a 10% sale or $130. I'm selling now for $117. My profit is only $17. To make the same $3,000 profit, I have to sell 176.5 pieces. I am going to be spinning my wheels. I'm done, Oshi. Thank you. I'm going to be spinning my wheels and getting nowhere. Everybody selling price is something that there will always be someone who go lower than you and really have to get out of that. If a grocery store does $100,000 of business, if he raises his prices by 1%, a tiny 1%, if he does $100,000 of business a week, he'll make $1,000 more a week. That's $50,000 to go straight into his pocket. That's the bottom line. If he goes 10%, he'll make $500,000. That's something that we have to know, and that will help us get to where Saul was talking about before, where you can start putting away money and really make yourself a healthy business as opposed to one that goes week by week and is not really strong. So create that differentiator. What is it that makes you stand out more than others? What's your value? Go into your business and go look, what can I change? In my business, every month we go through this exercise. What can we do to make the service for our customers better? It's important. There's a little show out called Undercover Boss, where the guy goes actually into his business just to see what's going on and see how the customers feel and what the service is like, so that he can come back and make changes and do something better. Would you have a business? Question is, you can build it up to ask yourself this question: would you buy from you? Or even better than that, you got to build it to make it so strong that it'll be, how could I not buy from you? And that's going to bring you that tzlacha. Of course, get yourself a good business plan, a marketing budget, sales strategy, understand the different things that are going on, but focus on, don't be scared of going up in price, because at the end of the day, they'll be out of business, you'll be continuing to go strong, and keep your customer service, and you'll be strong.
Thank you very much, Yamin. Okay, it's been a long night. It's 12 o'clock. It doesn't end this program. Let's go to closing. Anybody else who has, so 1 second. We're going to get to closing.
Yeah, I would like to enhance what he said, so not to argue.
2 minutes.
Enhance what he said.
2 minutes.
We have how many?
2 minutes.
Oh, I thought you said 2 hours. Anyway, let me use your exact words to show you how it translated into our accounting firm and how I believe in this. Early on, when I opened my firm in 1974, 73, at the end of 73, I decided we're not going to be a volume firm. In other words, more and more and more clients, pizza shops and all these kind of people that come in with shopping bags and information. We decided to give service, but they have to pay for it. In other words, we pay better for staff, so we have dedicated staff, we have less turnover, but we charge a price. People appreciate service. If you have a store and you walk in there and the word gets out that if you ask $20 for this item, and say, could you do better? Okay, I'll give it to you for 16. Word gets out like that, it never ends. I only love to shop in suit stores or in silver stores or in places like that. That is the price. You don't want it, don't take it. And if you run your business that way and you give them service and you talk nice to them and you show them that you care, this is what brings the business. If you're going to stop being volume, like the standard joke is, a guy says, I bought something for $1 and I sell it for 90 cents. So how do you make money? I make money in the volume. I have a lot of volume, that's how I make money. That's false. So these are ways of doing business, and if you concentrate on that, and the way to concentrate on that is, if you are in business, you have to live and breathe your business 24 hours a day, including Shabbos. You're allowed to think about your business here in Matorim. You're allowed to think about your business. That's what you have to live in. Figure out how to give better service, how to take care of your customers, how they should know, you know what, this guy is much better. You go to a car mechanic. This guy is much better because he cares, he calls me how I'm satisfied or whatever, or you go into a Jiffy Lube and you do your job there. In every business, customers want quality and they want good service. And if they're coming in only for price, let them go to the people that do volume business.
Thank you very much. Let's wrap it up. There's a few questions I'm just going to try to cover because people are texting me. Anybody who wants to reach out to Saul Friedman, you go to saulfriedman.com, his website. He has all the contact info. A lot of people have a lot of questions to ask you. Reach out to him. Anybody who wants to get a hold of
it's SNF Co. Sam Nancy Frank Company Activist. SNF
I typed in Google Saul Friedman accountant. I found him.
Oh, okay. That works.
Works also. So anybody needs to get him, any questions, reach out to him. Reach out to Avrumi, his sons. Anybody who's on the firm, Moshe Horowitz, more than happy to help you. Anybody who wants to reach Ben Heineman, a lot of people are asking for his information. BP Graphics, Lakewood, New Jersey. Call up, say I want to speak to Benjamin Heineman.
Print Group.
BP Print Group, sorry. Anybody wants to reach out to Mordechai Kasira, he's the owner of Set Your Table in Lakewood. Please look it up, call him up. Anybody who needs any help from Coach Menachem, any shirim, any emails, please contact him. MenachemBernfeld.com. Tomorrow this year will be available on the website. It's all recorded. Avrumi Friedman, thank you. SNFCO, like that, that's easier to remember.com. Okay. Again, I want to give a grocery shkoyach for Saul Friedman. Sai B'mominus, he was a corporate sponsor this week to be Mechazik people, and Sai for giving his time. And it was mine. It was an eye-opening session, and I think a lot of people learned a lot of stuff. I think people are Mechazik, and I think people have to understand that we have to, build businesses properly and not live hefka pepperchka, however they say it. Now, I want to give a special thank you to our advertising sponsors, Mrs. Lila Kaufman from the Yeshiva World, Matziv, LNN, Lakewood's News Network, Lakewood's most viewed status. You could sign up by sending him a WhatsApp message at 732-903-5017. Yanko Wenger from the Lakewood Chapter, Jay Blast, Mikasov from COL Live, Chazak. And I wanted to say as well, tomorrow, this year will be available on www.menachembernfeld.com. It's all recorded. You can watch the whole thing over. Anybody who wants to say some closing remarks, are going to be coming up in a second. And next week, we are going to have Rabbi Ben Zion Schaefer from the Shmooze coming next week to talk about ultimate emunah and bitachon through the most critical times in life. And we're going to ask him the hardest questions I've ever asked anybody. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. Ben, Yamin, you just spoke. Do you have anything else to say? Everybody was really touched by you. There's a lady who texted Menachem. She was crying after you spoke the first time. I'm just letting you know.
I am sorry. Get some tissues. I would say some closing remarks if you don't mind.
Okay.
Very
You're
quickly.
next.
I definitely want to shout out to my family members and my employees and a bunch of fans that keep texting me the whole night. It's very hard. I don't know how you do it. You have many more texting you, but I definitely appreciate it. But they're all asking me to give some practical advice. So we did a little bit of that. That was on the business side, and then a little bit on the spiritual side. So the first thing that I do, I can only tell you what I do myself. I'm going to say 3-4 things, and we'll be done. Aser to aser, aser b'shvil she'tasasher. Very important in my life. My kids know this. Everybody knows this. Be very careful and meticulous about Meiser. It's very, very important. We all have maybe tzedakah accounts and so on and so forth, and things go in, but there's so much stuff that slip right by, and you make a cheshbon in your head, and really, it doesn't work. For me, I had a card that I used all the years. I wrote every time I made some money or took some money in, I wrote it down, and I kept cheshbon in my computer. I just recently found an app on my phone that does Meiser, keeps it nice and clean, tells you exactly what's going on. A great thing, and it's important, and you have the avtachah from Hashem that you're going to get business from that. Number 2 is a long topic which I'm not going to get into, but tefillah. Tefillah to me is so important just from experience. I'm only doing this 30 years, but I see day in and day out how my tefillah makes such a big difference in the outcome of what's going on in the business. It's from coming on time to making sure that my orders are going to be ready on time, from making my davening from beginning to end without skipping around and going back and forth, to make sure that my journals, which I have a whole story on, that didn't come out right, and that's when I stopped doing the backwards and forwards. Leaving before the end of davening, it's like, asking you about kashas and then not staying to say goodbye or to get your brachas back. It's just like, it doesn't work. Anytime I've left early, it really hurt me. Mincha is a big thing that we do in VP, and it really helps us tremendously. It's brought down in Chazal how Mincha is middle of the day, and you stop to do it. That just really has the biggest thing, and we see how it's really helped us throughout the years. There was one time that I did construction in the Mincha room, and we had to move it to my tenant. My tenant took over. After 3-4 weeks that we were there, he asked me to please leave it in this place. And I said, why? He said, because my business went up tremendously this month, and I think it has to do with Mincha. And I said, no. It's coming back to me because I had a hard month this month, and I know what's going on. It's coming back to me. We've kept it, and that really is, to me, a tremendous thing that has helped us. In fact, when Mincha stopped during this COVID, it was very, very tough. And then once 10 guys came back, we started the Mincha again, and Baruch Hashem, things are picking up. Tefillah is a tremendous thing. Keep davening and keep that going. It really means a lot. And it means I make sure to say karbanos every morning. I know when people come to shul, the first thing they sacrifice is the karbanos, and that's a problem. But if you do everything, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there. We realize that everything comes from Hashem. There's no other way to do it. Another tip which we do always is daven to somebody else, another business owner. Daven for your competition. Nothing can happen. Hashem runs the world. He has enough for everybody. Daven to them, and you will get answered. Chazal say this. It's guaranteed. Just keep davening for everybody. Lastly, I would just say that I once asked Meir Gelly, what's his secret? How do he can give me some tips on how to make some money. And he told me, he pulled out a siddur. At that time, it was a siddur of Vilna. And he said to me, go say the Parshas Hamon every day with the Yiratzim before and after. It's brought down from the Yerushalmi, from the Rabbeinu Bachai, from the Rishonim, real people, real stuff. And it says very clearly, you're not going to have any mezainis ever missing. And he says, it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Shtadlis more or less does not help at all. Don't just say it. You should think about everything that you're saying and remember that everything that you get is all from Hashem and there's no one else. Ein Od Milvadoi. When I say the first pasuk, or as we start saying it, Vayom Hashem Moshe, Hini mamtir lachem lechem min hashamayim. I'm going to pour upon you lechem min hashamayim. This is our salaries. This is our money. This is our parnasa that Hashem gives us, and it's only from Hashem. And if you have the right kavanas and you do all the good things, then Hashem will surely send us all. Shacha bracha v'atzlacha. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heineman. One last question. Everybody keeps on texting me. What's the app you use for Meister?
A second.
Matchi, you ready? Coach Menachem, you ready to wrap up?
MeisterManager.com.
Thank you.
At MASERMANAGER.com.
Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it tonight for you coming on the Mamash Mechaz Doyle tremendously. Thank you
Thank you
again.
for having me.
Matchi. Unmute.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Friedman. I took tremendous direction from your words and really appreciated what you said. Thank you, Rebbe Yamin. Your chizik was awe-inspiring, really, really very inspiring, and thank you to Charlie. I love the concepts that you were talking about, differentiating and selling the product. I tell this to all my salespeople. The first thing you mention to a customer should not be the price. It should be about the product, and we'll get and discuss price later, and so on. I just want to finish off with a little my nugget of chizik. A little over 10 years ago, the first time my wife took me to one of the business shows, one of the gift shows. So I was actually teaching at the time. I still do teach, and I was you can say I was a curl guy with very wet behind the ears. And I met a frum rep. He's like, you should know, there's a mincha at 5 o'clock every day of the show, and he showed me which exit the mincha is going to be there. I came there. I figured it'd be a tiny, small little mini mincha, and must have been 50 to 100 people that stopped doing what they were doing at the show. And at a show, you're busy. You're walking the whole time. Nobody stops for anything, and they all stop for mincha, like you said. And it hit me, and I was thinking to myself, I'm an enikel from the Berditchever. I said, if the Berditchever would come to this mini mincha, what would he say? Rabbi Shalom, what are people doing here? Why are they here? They're here for one reason, because they want to support their families. Why do they want to support their families? To be able to provide chinuch, to be able to provide housing, to be able to give our children food, to be able to give a little tzedakah. That's what we're all here to do. Be'ez Hashem will bounce back from the dip, and Be'ez Hashem, the businesses that really got hit hard or wiped out will come back. We'll get back to giving tzedakah like Lakewood can be proud of, like we've done all along. Helped out the community, helped out Klal Yisrael, and Be'ez Hashem will come out stronger and better. Thank you, everybody.
Matchi, thank you again. We really appreciate you coming tonight. It was a big problem. And by the way, if anybody needs a good gift, go to Set Your Table. Coach Menachem.
We're past overtime over here. I just want to say thank you very much.
Everything. Listen, at 12:15 at night, you have almost 300 people. I don't know what to say. Coach Menachem, let's go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Friedman. And the Charlie, it's unbelievable, the information. Matcha Kassir, thank you. And Ben Heineman. And Hashem should help us, and He does help us, and will help us. And in Mitzvah Hashem, everybody should get the chizik, and you can hear it again and again, and we should see the Yeshua B'Karev.
Amen.
I would like to finish up by saying again, from the Gashmias the end, you saw what happened with the jobs on Friday with the stock market. And with Trump at the helm, he has chusim too. What he's doing for Eretz Yisrael is unbelievable. In my entire life, I never had a president that behaved that way. I went to that lunch, that big famous lunch. I went earlier, I think in November, and I saw how he talks about Jewish people and how he loves them. In his chis, what he's doing for Eretz Yisrael, the economy is going to turn around. It's going to shoot up like a rocket. And believe me, in a year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to be discussing the COVID-19 bit like we discussed today, 9/11. Oh, we once had a story, 9/11 and whatever. And everything is going to go back. When you say stores are wiped out completely, you'll see most of those are going to go back. The statistics showed as of last week, 79% of the small businesses in the United States are back in business again. 79%. So let's be positive and let's end this on a positive note. Hashem is going to help us with the light like this, that Killer Torah and with a Baltikaya that I have, right? You're my Baltikaya, right? Things are going to turn out to be pretty good. And thank you all for listening. And the only way I'm going to know, Ushi, if I did a good job is if you invite me again to speak.
Next week with Reverend Ian Schaefer. Amuna B'Tachin / Cash.
Surely invited for Rosh Hashanah.
What?
You're surely invited to Avrami for Rosh Hashanah.
Well, if we get me a seat, because I can't stand. The shul is getting tighter and tighter.
Reverend Friedman, really, really thank you. Mamash Mahana, tons of people. You did a massive chesed tonight. You have tremendous chesed for everybody. Good night, everybody. Thank you again. Next week, we'll see you.